All right, here we go. As you can see, I'm in shorts and a t-shirt like an idiot, and everyone else is in wetsuits. So this will be fun. Off we go.
The idea was pretty simple, at least in my head it was. Drawing from my years of racing offshore and out in the open ocean, I wanted to welcome a group of like-minded lunatics to push themselves and their watercraft just a little further and harder than they normally would on a regular run-of-the-mill adventure ride. And no, I wasn't just talking about racking up a bunch of miles, although that was certainly part of the plan, but also to traverse a variety of water conditions. The question was whether I could find a route that would challenge our group in such a way. Thankfully, it didn't take long for a few others in the Pandhandle PWC Facebook group to join my quest. Alabama local Brad Bertrand was the first to jump in. The route he had logged in his GPS was simple enough. Starting in the bayou, we'd cut through the Mobile Bay and then hang left towards Orange Beach. From Orange Beach, we'd follow the intercoastal past Pensacola, reaching Destin and circling back. In all, the total proposed mileage was well over 250 miles, with hopes that with enough time, the route would allow us to swing out into the open Gulf and try our hand at some offshore riding, which I was craving. Part of my idea was that I wanted everyone to be forced to bring extra fuel. Extra fuel meant no prolonged stops, and it also implied a little bit of danger, which is key to rides like this. With Brad as our group leader, the next step was to let folks know about it. It didn't take long for word to get out. But as quickly as excited riders began signing up, the complainers came pouring in. Why are you going so fast? Why do I need to bring extra gas? Blah, blah, blah. These were exactly the kinds of folks we didn't want. They were tourists and we wanted adventurers. That morning in Satsuma, Alabama was foggy, like really foggy. The bayou just above Mobile Bay wasn't too technical, but heavy fog lit by the sunrise made visibility a little difficult. Most of us had seen worse, but our group of 9 wasn't the fine-tuned platoon I'd hoped for, and the route would quickly begin to weed out the ranks. Passing below a couple of train trestles, we sprang out into the bay into mild conditions. Brad and his 2019 Sea-Doo RX-TX 300 rose up to a steady low 60-mile-an-hour clip, and I aboard an RX-PX 300 paced alongside him. A little far off, a bright red Yamaha VXR streaked across the wind-blown chop. That was Tony Dalton, who wasn't going to be outpaced by us, supercharger or not. Per Brad's direction, the route southeast through Mobile Bay smoothed out a little bit once we passed the point. Brad led us to a small sandbar at the mouth of the intercoastal where we would regather our group. Almost immediately, I could tell that things were off. One rider on a 10-year-old Ultra 310LX was losing his auxiliary tank, the adjustments having backed off. Another rider had lost both of his jerry cans already, having used a loose-fitting bungee cord to secure something like 60 extra pounds of fuel. The complaining was in full swing, and plans were already made to escort a few of these guys back to the launch. Well, hold on, one of the riders paused. I've got some extra fuel. Let's get to Lulu's and Gulf Shores and see if they got some gas cans. We sped off to Lulu's, and while this was supposed to be just for one rider, I and the rest of the crowd topped off our tanks, not realizing that the prolonged delay would completely cost us our destined route. Brad shook his head as I idled back from the dock. We ain't gonna make the route, he said, pointing at his watch. This stop just had eaten up way too much time. Leaving the no-wake zone and speeding up to Orange Beach, our route was taking just too long and too much daylight. During a prolonged no-wake zone, as we passed along million-dollar yachts, Brad suggested that we might skip Destin. We'll pull into the Gulf around Pensacola and ride back through the surf all the way back to Orange Beach for lunch. It should be pretty challenging, he promised. I nodded in agreement and followed Brad's bright yellow Sea-Doo into the whitewash of the open Gulf. The chilled blast of salt water against my face was all I needed to remember what we were in for. Even trimmed up to its vertical hilt, the RX-PX torpedoed nose first into the surf. Its aggressive keel ruddered in the water, twisting and contorting in the wind-blown wash. Well ahead of our pack, I opted to pull deep into Brad's whitewash and ride his foam for a few miles. The RX-TX didn't track much better than the RX-PX, but the two of us made a brightly hued pair for the rest to follow. Only twice we stopped to gather our troops, the beating having loosened equipment and racks. Readjustments were made, cans were emptied into fuel tanks to relieve the weight from the transom to the belly tanks, and some complained, which I expected, but others cracked wise and prodded each other to keep pushing forward, which I really liked. The high-reaching bridge stretching over Perdido Pass was our gateway into Orange Beach, Alabama. We idled under its shade and into the smooth breakwater until reaching Pirates Cove in Alberta. The themed beach resort was a welcome respite, but as Brad had noted, another distraction from us racking up the kinds of miles that we had hoped for originally. Leaving Pirates Cove, it was a straight shot back through the Alabama coastal connection to the mouth of Mobile Bay. We pinned it hard and let the supercharged Sea-Doos howl. Being weighed down with fuel and gear, the RX-PX climbed just over 74 miles per hour. We came to a stop at Lulu's and waited for the rest of the group. Miles behind us, the slow-moving barge that Brad and I had slipped past without any trouble had kicked up a heck of a fantail and ejected Tony Dalton and his red VXR several feet into the air. Somehow failing to read the water or gauging his speed, Tony launched hard and came down even harder on the rail, splitting his forehead. Thankfully, the rest of the group gathered around Tony as he swam back and remounted his Yamaha. With his bell sufficiently rung, Tony and the group idled up to the fuel dock at Lulu's and took a breather. Brad pointed a heavy finger at his GPS and motioned me over. "Kevin, the day's pretty much over," he explained. "We've got across the bay back into the bayou, but from there we're pretty much done." Brad suggested we took a few passes through the swamp to rack up some final miles and give the guys something fun to speed around on. I liked the idea and readied for the final bit of rough water that the afternoon's bay had in store for us. Like the inverse of the morning's conditions, the southern half of the bay was all chewed up. Its flat-bottom surface bounced up in a rhythmic water surface of whitecaps and off-tempo waves. And just like the morning, once we broke past Point Clear, the wind direction would radically change the water surface and it would all lay down, which is exactly what it did. Suddenly, the rhythm of the waves kept the beat with the staccato of the Sea-Doo's hull, and 70 miles per hour never felt more natural. Brad, Tony, and I pinned the final 20 miles of Mobile Bay, hoping that those behind us would find their rhythm as well. The flat, muddy waters pouring into the bay beckoned for us to mash the gas and race inside into the bayou. Brad led a winding path that took us through the Appalachie and Tensas rivers. We raced past cypress trees dripping heavy with Spanish moss, careened through winding natural race courses, and cut up the glassy water as a sort of celebration after the day's ride. In all, we racked up 179 miles, just shy of 180. We ate up over 40 miles of churned up bay chop, blasted over 100 miles of flat, briny glass, and batted our way over 24 miles of open Gulf whitecaps with a good mix of stuff in between. Rides like these always require a plan B, and gratefully, Brad was the type of group leader who came equipped with not just one, but half a dozen contingencies. Maybe I'll choose to host another one of these rides, but you can rest assured that I'll be turning people away at the launch ramp who just aren't prepared to make the full ride. Tools, extra straps, you name it, you better come prepared. Because you know what? We're not going to wait for you. We're going to leave you at the launch ramp. The best you can do is remember your Boy Scout motto and come prepared. These kinds of rides are for those who really mean it. I'm Kevin Shaw, and you've been watching the Watercraft Journal. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, leave a comment, and share it with your friends. It'll definitely help us grow the channel. And if you want more awesome content like this, please make sure to hit that subscribe button, as new videos are published every day, Monday through Friday, entirely free to you. And if you got to have even more jet ski content, please go visit us at www.watercraftjournal.com, where new articles are written and published every day, Monday through Friday, entirely subscription free to you.